viewers, and welcome back to the Self-Made Auto channel. Got this 2011 Chevrolet Camaro. It's got the big 6.2 in it. Needs front brakes. Now this car is low mileage, and you guys probably recognize it, or at least the color of it, from a video I think we did a couple years ago where we put an exhaust system on this. So the guy does use the car occasionally. However, more often than not, when he uses it, he's in this, sports car race association, something like that. So gets driven on a track. He does some stuff up here at Watkins Glen Raceway, and they really hammer their brakes a lot. Brake fluid in it's black, needs to be replaced and fleshed out. Now the car's only got like 15,000 on it. He's got the front brakes extremely hot, and the rotors are warped, so it's got a lot of shudder. Thing shakes like a millennial drinking Red Bull when you're driving down the road and applying the brakes. So he wants to replace the brakes on it. I've got OEM pads, OEM rotors. It's got some Brembos on there, so we'll get these things swapped out. So first thing first, we got to drive the pins out of it, and it has these retainer springs in here. So we're going to take and just knock the pin through, get it kind of loosened up first, and push the retainer spring in right in the middle of the caliper. And you should be able to push that pin out. Wiggle it out, and that's what they look like. They've just got the little retainer on the end. Essentially, that's it. That's all holds in the pads in these little guys. Same thing on the bottom. Push in the pin or the spring, and there's that. There's the other pin. Exactly the same top and bottom, so you don't have to worry about that too much. Now the pads are worn in a little bit, so we can try to push the pistons back. Now prior to doing this, I did pull some fluid out of the reservoir because I didn't want to accidentally make the mess. So I'm just going to kind of hold this spring, push against the rotor, push the pad back there, get the pistons pushed back in. So that side's pushed in. That might give us enough room to get our spring out of there. And there is our retainer spring. I'm going to take and just hold this side, get this side started here. Just as easy to push the pads back, or push the pistons back with the pads. So just hold one side, push the other side in. Right now they should be in all the way. So a couple screwdrivers, nothing too fancy there. You should be able to wiggle the pads right out. Now be mindful of where the squealer is, and also note that they are directional. Little arrows on them. So our outside one had the squealer towards the bottom. Now the other side is the exact opposite. The squealer is towards the top. So, but you can see the discoloration on these pads when they start turning that ashy color. It's usually a really good indicator that they've been super hot, and they'll start getting real flaky on the edges. So there's that. Let's get a caliper over here. We're going to take, moving you guys around, we're going to pull the caliper off. That's just two 18mm bolts on the back side. I'm going to take and just crack them loose. These things are super tight. They're like 33 foot-pounds and then 90 degrees, plus they have Loctite on them. Get them loose. I'm just going to grab an impact and buzz them off. And all the brake parts are like wicked expensive. I think these brake pads are $200 and some a set, something like that. There's crazy money, but you're gonna play, you're gonna pay. That's what my pop always told me. Take that out and I'll whack the rotor off there. There's that. So there is a little bit of rust buildup, but the rotor actually sits on this portion and this portion here. So as long as there's no buildup there to speak of, I can see the machine surface. We're not too worried about anything in here, as long as it doesn't extend past its outer surface. You could just take a wire brush and touch that up a little bit. If there's anything more than that, you'd probably want to use a little whizzy wheel. brake vid without some brake clean, huh? Get rid of our dust. Then what we'll do is just a very light layer of fluid film. I don't want any sling off on this thing. Just enough to help prevent that from rusting again in the future. Make sure we've got it on everything here. Alright, so that should be all well. Get the new rotor. Now these are brand new factory rotors, right from General Motors. I believe they're made in Italy, if I remember correctly. Stick a little retainer in there. There's that. Fancy. And again, brake clean. These coated rotors usually don't have much on them in the line of, you know, chemicals as far as rust proofing, like any kind of oils or anything, but still a good habit just to, you know, wipe them off. There's that. The calipers are super clean on this car. You know, no corrosion. They're all aluminum, as they say across the pond, and they look fantastic. You know, piston faces, everything. So if yours were not, you know, you'd want to get in there and scrub them out, like dead bee or something in there. So we'll line these back up. Get your new caliper bolts, complete with Loctite. Get them started. Now with Loctite on them, they tend to go in a little more difficult than just, you know, one with bare threads. You must snug them up, and then they're 33 foot-pounds and then 90 degrees, so they're pretty dang tight. That's 33. We'll calibrate our torque wrench here. Now we'll go the other 90. Mother of pearl. There's 90 on that one. 90 on that one. So what's that end up being? 194 foot-pounds. Wow. That's tight. I double checked that spec a couple times prior to doing that, because that's tight. Like a tiger. So now we'll find our brake pads. Yeah. So I got these from GM. I don't know if you can see it well. There's a Brembo sticker underneath the white sticker that they cover up. Yeah, there it is. So I'm kind of hiding right under there. These are made in Italy. So we got all the new ones. They've already got the shims on them. Already got the arrows on them. Can't really mess it up. And then what I do, I don't usually slobber these up with grease, but I just take a little bit of brake caliper grease just right on the edge here where they're going to slide down in. You definitely don't want to overdo it, because like I said, these brakes are going to get smoldering hot. Hopefully it burnishes them in prior to going racing. I'll just put just a very light film right there. I find that's about all you need. So there's that. I'll slip right in there. Kind of like a Toyota. Arrow facing forward. Slip it in. Then it is not required, according to service info, to replace any of the pins or springs. They just say inspect them for excessive corrosion, which these are not corroded. I believe we can slip the top one in before I go drive that in, I want to make sure, I guess we can, so we can drive that top pin in first. Let's get that started. Got it started. We'll drive her home. There's that one. Stick our spring back in here. And then get the lower one started. If only all brake jobs are this simple, right? And that is in all the way. Just recenter my spring. And when the pads come in, once they're in, it's almost impossible for that spring to come out. So yeah, I guess that's it. It's not much to see, folks. Imagine this is just about the same for the Caddy and Corvette. I'll make sure these bleeders are going to come loose. I'm going to stick the power bleeder on it now. According to the cap, it's just .3 brake fluid that's in this. So that's what we're going to flush it out with. So those will come loose. We'll get the power bleeder and get this baby bled out. Actually decided to order some .4 fluid. Now my pressure pot is just about out, so it's a good time to, do the switch on it. All I'm going to do right now is I think we're just going to be able to pad slap the rear. Now before anybody freaks out, no, this is not the proper way to check for rotor run out. Typically put on all 5 wheel nuts, spacers, torque them, but this, frankly, this brake rotor never moved off from the hub, still has a bolt in it there. I'm just going to take a quick measurement. If I see anything over 3 thousandths run out, then I'll do it the right way. But I don't believe it's even moved off the hub, so I just wanted to put a couple bolts in it just to be sure. And we're going to spin it. We're going to look at the dial indicator and just see if there is any run out. When I drove the car, I didn't feel any thumping in the pedal. It was, steering wheel was shaking like crazy though. Can't really see. Can you guys see? Yeah, we're pretty close to 0. Just mark it there. It's going to chatter a little bit on us. There's 1 thousandths. Back to 0. Back to our mark. So we've got 1 thousandths, maybe 1 thousandths and a half. Of course, that's an area where I don't have a bolt, so that could be my problem. But I'm pretty happy with it. I just went and checked the other side, about 0.5 thousandths over there. Like I say, we're well within the limits. The rotors look good. Thickness wise, they're still like new. So I'll take and pull these wheel bolts off there. Didn't really expect to see anything back here. I just wanted to just double check real quick, just to be sure. So we're just going to pad slap the back. Very similar to the front. Loosen up the pins. Hold that spring down. Come out of there. Something to hold this spring with here. Well, come on. I missed. There. The spring's got a fair amount of tension on it. So I don't know if on the rear, if you could slip this under the pin or not, or if we'll just put it in prior. Yeah, I suppose you could. Yeah, it's pretty tight on that rotor. We'll probably just stick it in prior, knocking the pin in all the way. These I do not see directional arrows on unless they're underneath the shim, which I don't see. So be mindful of where, you know, the brake squealers are. So we'll set them down how we took them off. Get these calipers look super clean. Be able to slide pads right in there. Again, same thing. They just went over top of the Brembo sticker. Well, these did come with shims and some Italian grease. All shims look the same. Let's see who's who here. Just like we got them. Outside pad. We're going to take and apply our lube behind the shim. And go get some, get a brush here. I just grabbed a Q-tip. A lot of people ask me where I get my brushes that I use in the brake caliper grease. They're just acid brushes. You can get them on Amazon. I've got a gigantic pack of them because it's cheaper to buy a huge pack than it is just a couple individuals. So why am I using a Q-tip? Well, I didn't feel like walking upstairs and getting a new brush. Kind of a unique odor to it. Not really sure what it is. Whoa, fella, you almost went the wrong way. So stick that on there. That is our outside pad, right? That is our outside pad. And we'll just do the same thing to the inside. I don't know what these pads are made out of, what kind of friction material, but they're really coarse. Like just touching, you know, compared to, you know, just a standard set of like ceramic or brakes that we get for, you know, just your daily driver. And there's that one. You know, it's funny, I'm like, yeah, pay attention to your squealer. Well, guess what, fella? All the pads are the same. Big dummy. So I did put a very light film of lube on the edges of them. Pin, we determined that we're going to have to stick the spring in first. There's that. Oops. Get that pin started, we'll finish it off here in a second. Started also. Punch will go back there. Drive them into specs, I guess. That's it. Easy peasy. So I've gone ahead and emptied all the .3 out of our pressure pot here. Not sure the diaphragm's going to go down on it. When it empties out, it gets, I'd have to say, in the high 90 percentile. So I'm going to fill it up with a couple gallons of .4. And we're going to flush out this whole system. This will give it a little bit higher boiling point. It's 30 or 40 degrees higher anyways. There's a couple gallons, should be plenty. It's locked down. Put the Schrader valve back in it. Now we've got to bleed out our bleeder. Get all the air out of it. So if you guys haven't seen this before, this is a Brannick. It's a G300. I think I did a video on it, in case you're curious about it. Should shut off. Put some air in it. That's what I'm taking. It's going to blast out some air. This way here we don't fill the car right full of air. So there's a diaphragm in there that separates the fluid from the air, and of course with the diaphragm pushed down, a lot of air sitting on top of the brake fluid. And the first bit of fluid that came out was just fluid that was left in the hose. Oh, the thunder's going. There we go. So I'll let it flow for just a minute. Alright. Alright, now the whole thing is perched out with dot 4. We'll get it hooked up to the car. Start flushing out all the old crap. Now each caliper has 2 bleeders for both sides of the caliper. Did I just have that thing off there? Maybe not. There's one. What I do is make sure I kind of crack it loose. Stick a little rubber hose on there. I'm going to drain it right back into a gallon jug here. And then we're just going to let this baby flow until it starts coming out clear. This might take a little while. It's going to have to flush some of the junk out of the master cylinder, of course out of this caliper. Then progressively each wheel will get a little easier because we'll have clean fluid through the whole system. And then you don't just have to push out the junk in the calipers. Kind of like watching grass grow. I'm basically just doing the same thing in the rear, inner and outer bleeders, letting her run until she's clean. We've already got about just under a half a gallon out of it so far. So I ended up pushing about 3/4 of a gallon through it, and then when you're done, pump up the brakes a couple times, make sure the pistons are out, and then obviously make sure your reservoir is full. Oh, I just better put my seatbelt on. So GM has a pretty standard burnishing procedure, commonly known in the industry, I guess, as your 20-30 method. So 20 stops from 30 miles an hour. Moderate brake pressure, cool down periods in between each one, and that's what burnishes the pads in. Whoa! Too much torque, Chevy! Ooh, fancy. So we can share this kind of quick visual. sure everything looks good. No fluid oozing out of the calipers. Alright. Should have went with me, Mrs. O. Hitting triple digits in the Chevy.
You didn't need to take me with you. I'm going to go drive right now.
Go drive it? Okay. I got a nickel in it.
Yeah, right.
No, you can't drive it, seriously. Anyhow, folks, that's it. Putting Brembos on your Chevy Camaro. Pretty easy, actually. Probably easier than most, brake jobs, in my opinion. And there's really not much else to say. Definitely follow manufacturer's instructions. This video is made for entertainment purposes only, of course. And use caution when changing your brake fluid. Do your own research on the difference between 3, 4, 5, and 5.1. Make sure you're not making any kind of mistakes there. And that's it. Go down below, ring the bell, subscribe. Not particularly in that order, but you get the point. Find us around, patron. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching. You mind coming back there?